There's one topic related to debt refinancing that the CPA exam loves to test candidates, and it's confusing. And let's just go through an example, and then I'll show you exactly what the standard basically says. So in our example, it says that at the end of year one, the company had $100,000 of current debt, right? So that's the last day of their balance sheet. Now, it says that the debt was refinanced by issuing long-term debt after the balance sheet date, but before the financial statements were issued. So now that you're thinking, it occurred after the balance sheet date, so it doesn't relate to year one. This would only impact year two. But under this refinancing debt standard, that is not necessarily the case. So as you can see in this visual, right, it basically says that a company, if they have current debt, they can reclassify it to non-current if two conditions are present. They intend to refinance and they have the ability to refinance, and it all happens before the financial statements were issued. So even though it was after the balance sheet date, as long as it's before the financial statements were issued and those two conditions are met, meaning they had the intent and the ability, meaning they actually did it, then the company can reclassify debt from current to non-current, right? So in this case, the refinancing actually happened because they did issue long-term debt, and it happened before the financial statements were issued, right? So before the financial statements were issued, that is always, always, always a critical piece of information. So since this occurred, the company can record the following journal entry to reclassify the debt from current to non-current, right? So all they would do is have a debit to debt current liability, which removes the current portion, and then they're placing it in non-current by debiting debt non-current liability, right? So that's a simple example of how the refinancing debt standard is applicable and the reclassification journal entry to take debt from current to non-current, right? So there are a handful of multiple choice questions that go into a much deeper level on this. And by the time you get through those, I promise, you will remember this little nuance that the CPA exam loves to slip into the exam.